Good night, everybody. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I say, I'm here with an elder of the community tonight. Okay, is this thing saying? Sound check. Okay, sound on now. Alright. Assalamu alaikum. Good night. I say, I'm here with an elder tonight from the community, Mark, and he'll be chiming in at some point. Welcome, everybody. We have a lot of things to go through tonight, and I'm hoping that at the end of tonight, collectively we come away feeling a lot more informed, a lot more aware. So I'm just giving it a couple minutes until others join in, and then we begin, okay? Thank you so much for joining. Welcome all the Maroons all over the world. Welcome to everyone, the wider public. Welcome to everyone who has been paying attention to what's been going on. We remain transparent. We remain above board. We remain in the light of the people in doing what we're doing. And I hope that at the end of tonight, you feel more compelled to help us to get the right thing done, to have dialogue going, and to prevent things from even further escalating. As we have been watching, things have escalated quite significantly and quite drastically in the last few days. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Just giving the others a few more minutes to join, and then we get started. Please, everyone, share as much as you can before we get started. It's a critical time that we face as Maroons, and we're here in this community. We stand for doing what's right, and we remain transparent to everyone out there in our mission. And a lot of things have been swirling around recently, from incidents that have happened here in Accompong. I see, are you hearing me? Yes, we're hearing you. Okay, so today I would have went through a lot of information in enlightening you on some of the findings and some of the issues that have spiraled out of control right now, to be honest. The way things are moving in the media and the things that are being said, quite callous, quite ludicrous, to be honest. Right, and has taken away so much attention from the good things that the good people who have sacrificed so much to be here with us today, right, to be realizing, right, our true inherited potential, right, that I think everyone can admit by now, something is not right. Something is off. People think that, you know, Chief Currie is acting out of capacity. Chief Currie is acting quite within capacity. The fact of the matter is, Chief Currie has been blocked out. Chief Currie has been ignored. Chief Currie has been sidelined. Chief Currie has been libeled against, and it still doesn't hurt me. But what it does, it keeps wasting time and drawing energy in directions that are not fruitful to our brothers and our sisters, and they do not deserve it. We do not deserve this. Now, I would have enlightened you to the happenings that we would have uncovered in coming into office as of February in 2021. Now we came to understand that within our community, players from other islands, other countries, came here, got involved with our council, and also participated in moving large sums of money in and out of a state account without the knowledge of the people. The fact of the matter is, there's so much that has been at stake since coming into office that we've realized our lands have been encroached upon. In 2013, we all agreed on a cockpit country stakeholder boundary, to which we expected when the announcement was made in 2017 regarding an area that would be protected. Quite a different territory or boundary was highlighted and then offered as what was to be declared as the cockpit country protected area. We later understood that the changes or the alterations to these boundary markers was as a result of commitments and contracts that were made to external bauxite companies who have since, many begun operations, many would have already made certain commitments that are now almost irreversible, right? Our government, 51% shareholder, right, of this entity, right, would have gone and permitted mining on what was demarcated as cockpit country. Mind you, cockpit country provides 40% of the island's freshwater supply. And when you damage the water system, when you damage the aquifers, when you remove the topsoil, when you extract these minerals, you cause irreplaceable damage. Irreversible, irreplaceable. No amount of money can compensate for what we lose as a people when we literally ship our entire soil off to another country. Now, when we spoke in the early days about this Maroon Treaty and what it means in today's language, in today's literature, we've been hit with many rebuttals. We've been hit with many, I would say, offensive rebuttals. And the fact of the matter is, since coming into office, I've been seeking dialogue with the government to bring to rest long-standing issues as it relates to Maroon rights, Maroon land, and Maroon identity. The challenge is, we failed at having a diplomatic or any form of conversation whatsoever. But what we do know is that in law, we have a legally binding agreement that is still standing, that we reserve the right to invoke, which is what I've merely done. International law is different from local law. Local law requires certain adaptations to bring international law into effect. My arguments have been, let's get to what this treaty means today. We've had to use sovereignty to preserve our land and our rights to that land. Because if we were to engage in dialogue regarding indigenous rights and giving away what we know we have legally, then come 10 years' time, when we are out of minerals in the area that would have now been demarcated as cockpit country, we then change the boundary to access more minerals and more minerals. Then where does it stop? We reserve that right. We also reserve the right to seek and to compel the government to come to the table to bring this issue to amicable end. It is hurting everybody. It is hurting the good people of this island. It is hurting the good Maroon people who have suffered enough. Now that our land is at threat, let me tell you something. They say the Maroons are divided. You see, the Maroons are divided. Yes, the Maroons are divided to a certain extent, because we've allowed ourselves to be divided. I would want to drop the term Maroon, The indigenous people of Jamaica are divided because of wedges that have been stuck in between them. This document provides refuge, provides a haven, provides the safety for you who were identified as First Peoples when the British was signing that document. So let's cut away all the unnecessary nonsense. The Maroons gave refuge to all those who sought refuge, all those who had, all those who valued freedom, all those who valued justice, all those who knew that they were children of the earth. They resisted the enslavement from the mentality, enslavement from the physical. All of us came together in the enclaves of the cockpits all the way back to the Blue and Jonko Mountains. And we together, black, white, brown, Obroni, and Kun, we all stood together and defended the rights and freedom of a people. How is it today you're relying on the literature of those who lost the war? The rhetoric of those who now are in control of the estate of those who lost the war, to then feed off your bread and call it the truth. People, a lot more is beneath the surface as to which you may believe. I was not sent here for any reason under any agenda more than coming here to make life better for the people who to this day still live, still defend, and still cherish the land as it was in 1738 and prior to 1738. Accompong, Pikibu, we are children of the Almighty. Kinder, one family. Out of many, one people. The irregularities that we would have uncovered as it relates to the Lumi and this bank account, we also found what I would call the blueprint or the architecture of what the currency was to be backed by. There are many questions that still remain because I see information relating to backside companies. I see information regarding the minerals that have been identified in Cockpit Country. I've found ledgers showing movement of monies. I've seen names of people within my community and outside of my community receiving money from the state account. As the authority in this territory, I have requested the assistance of the external authorities to look at an account that is within their jurisdiction, that to us there is a highly irregular set of transactions to which one must be compelled to take a look at. Where is the justice? If you go to Western Union now, if you go collect money, them ask you everything, maybe even how you reach at the Western Union location. If you go to the bank to draw your own money, you have to tell them what you're going to do with that money. Why was there no accountability where almost $1 million US was moving through our account? I'm talking daily transactions, thousands and thousands of dollars moving through our account. I took this to the highest level of, I carried this to the highest level of organized criminal investigative authority in the land. As an authority, to an authority, seeking the assistance that the relationship which I speak of that exists is quite informal. This is why there are so many grey lines, people, because nobody has put pen to paper on officially understanding and recognizing indigenous rights. So we're suffering because of that. People come into this territory, commit crimes, and go away, untouched, unscathed. They obviously know something we don't know. They obviously know how to maneuver certain lines we don't know. Or perhaps they're affiliates and conduits otherwise that we just can't see. But what we do see is hard evidence. Hard irrefutable evidence. And to add on top of that, having accessed the building last week, Mr. McPherson reached out to us. He reached out to us and called me. I got 4 calls from him Saturday night, 5 calls from him Sunday. This was all after accessing the building. Mind you, he has not been in Jamaica for almost 2 years. No one has heard or seen from him. He made himself available to come and see me. I accepted having him here. I invited him here, actually, because we've had a long, long wait to get answers to these long-standing questions that are still driving a divide in our community, as former Colonel Ferran Williams is claiming ownership to this building. Mr. McPherson has provided information contrary to that assertion. Mr. McPherson came here on Monday of this week, just ended. He came to meet with myself, but I took the liberty to invite members of the community to join us and members of the council.
Clarity.
We had a gathering of over 35 persons here to witness Mr. McPherson explain to us the dealings and handlings of our state account and the entanglements he was involved with former Colonel Williams as it relates to Lumi and the building that is saying it was a gift from Mr. McPherson to him and has a room for his sister. Mr. McPherson, who now goes by the name Chief Semako the First, provided information to confirm our worries, to confirm the information that we would have come by, that the world's most wanted man was actually in touch and in communication with him. He, however, went on to say he did not believe it was a material impact on anything to do with the Lumi and what was construed to be his involvement in the creation of this currency. Mr. Marshalek, if you may not know, or if you might not have looked him up, is wanted for the Wirecard scam in Germany, which approximately €3 billion went missing. Let me say that again. Approximately €3 billion went missing in Germany from what was known as the Wirecard scandal. And Mr. Marshalek visited Accompong after that crime was committed. We have records and interviews of people validating him visiting here. Now ask yourself, how could this have happened? How could the authorities not have known this? Why is it that the Accompong space is being used to collect money, is being used to facilitate criminal activity, but yet the people who live in it
Suffer.
don't even deserve the dignity of the eyes of government and people who say they care and who say we are one? It can't be that when I call for the assistance of the police, they choose when they want to come. Because we say we want to preserve law, we say we want to preserve order. All it means is a mere communication, a mere understanding between both entities. It exists informally. Prior to me being here, any police coming into the community would make a call to the colonel. If there's an issue, they would liaison with the colonel. The problem is, I think there's a grave misunderstanding as to what this maroon thing means to everyone. So let me help clear it up again. In the signing of the Treaty of 1738, it made recognition that there were two jurisdictions, one that was controlled by the Maroons and what was controlled by the British government. After the British government left Jamaica, they decided to give the plantation owners and their estates, the estate owners, their own independent government. The independent entity that was created here in Jamaica was then recognized, Order of Council 1962, to have an independent government. Mind you, the Maroons would have maintained all aspects of their governance, their culture, their history to this date. What has not been made clear is the distinction between the Maroon jurisdiction and the Jamaica jurisdiction. Nothing that a mere understanding or memorandum of understanding or agreement can do. Because in the United States you have what is known as Concurrent Resolution 331, which brings into force the treaty rights of the Native Indians. What this does is also bring recognition to their territory. But they still have a relationship with the federal government. Why is this so hard to understand? Why is this so hard for people to comprehend? We maintain a council that governs the space and our territory. The fact is, we've been underfunded, we've been sidelined, we've been marginalized, we've been ridiculed, and we've been discriminated against in policies, in structures, in doing business. Because for one, it's never been made clear how do people do business in these territories. Because the land is not under the titles of Jamaica. So then how does security work? Then how does it work if you don't pay lands on your tax? And how do people benefit within your territory? You already have a special economic zone is what you're telling me. So how do we not benefit from this? Because legislature doesn't speak to the Maroon lands. They were never a part of the Crown system. Jamaica is still a member of the British colony. Their head of state is still Elizabeth, Queen. And unfortunately, as it may be for this day where we would look to have a republic, a true republic can only exist when constructive dialogue begins with the two entities on this land, to which an obligation was passed. Why is it so hard for brothers and sisters to now come together and make this work? Why is it so hard to find unity in the Maroon communities? Why is it there's so much intervention of state in Maroon business? I'm being interfered with again. My connection is saying poor. My connection is saying unstable. I don't know what's going on. But listen, the fact of the matter is, without fruitful and mutual beneficial relationships, crime will continue. Peace be upon you. Let's take a moment right here. Let's take a rest right here and just watch. Honorable people, I thank you for taking the time out tonight to listen to me. And if I get cut off, I'll try to jump back on right away. And so I ask for your patience and understanding. I was saying, when we allow these crimes to continue, when we allow our space to be invaded the way it is invaded constantly, and you have good people here who are ready and willing to work to make this great nation better, we see how the collaborative approach could be beneficial in several aspects of our daily lives. Sound there, beg. Sound it again. Mr. McPherson confirmed that he was in dialogue with the world's most wanted man who was in Accompong. Mr. McPherson confirmed that the bank account which we identified, the US dollar account, which was not notified to the community nor to me or my administration by Mr. Williams, was a personal account. You heard me. Mr. McPherson said the account was a personal. The Accompong Maroons will not be denied. When the righteous sit and do nothing, evil prevails. Listen to me, people. I didn't come here to joke. I've already gone a year and a half. Come 5 years, I'll be judged on what was achieved and what was accomplished. I've been constantly blocked. I've brought good people here. I thank Sagicor Bank who had offered in the earlier days to build a gate, 2 gates actually for us, to put ATMs in our community. Shortly after, members of the community went on the air and started blasting me, blasting Sagicor for no reason. Turned them away. Jacana came here, wanted to look at how perhaps we could have something worked out. Understanding the knowledge that the Maroons reserve when it comes to ganja. Medicine from our forests. Again, that was turned upside his head by one said Basra, who is one of main topic today. Just recently, great philanthropist came, made an offer to help us with a water project. He sent a young project coordinator here to assist us getting this up and going. And again, thwarted by the efforts and energies of others who say they have Maroons at heart, interest at heart. They don't live here, they're not from here. Many of the interference that we face today is overseas based, but they have puppets that they feed. But the good is greater than the bad. I reaffirm that in the name of the Most High to you tonight. I declare our land is a land of peace and prosperity and happiness and fulfillment for those who have remained and still choose to remain amidst all the adversities, amidst all the challenges, amidst all the negativity, amidst all the fight. We survive. We are Maroons. I pray that good sense prevails. because the Maroons are calling for justice. Mr. Williams planned to storm the community and create a very strenuous situation on my administration with men carrying guns to reclaim what he says is his building. I am saying, are the authorities going to sit and let people from the outside come in here and murder more Maroons to blame it on the chief before you act?
Salam alaikum, alaikum salam.
I have an elder here with me tonight. His name is Mark Wright. Mark has been around for quite some time and is a strong culture bearer of this community. Mark has been involved with a lot of administrations and has met a lot of players, many of whom I would have just mentioned to you. Mark will be bringing a little bit of information to you to help substantiate what I've been saying all this time. But before I bring Mark in, I want to touch, or let me say conclude, on a bit of an issue we spoke of earlier as it relates to someone being injured here in Accompong. The incident with Dane, I need to fully deal with that once and for all and move past it. Because Dane would have been warned, as I would have mentioned on more than one occasion, for his outbursts, his libel, his slander, and then his conspiracy with former Colonel Williams, Dennis Foster, Lorna Anderson, Duncan Buchanan, affiliates of the Accompong News Network, which I won't mention anymore. Not an official entity of this body or this council or this state. These people were on a phone call this week conspiring ways and means of overthrowing this administration. You heard me. Oh, I forgot the one, Dave Reed, who's also a man appearing out of nowhere, being a concerned Maroon, painted himself, right, as a direct liaison and contact with the backside company. Came in here, said he's a Maroon and wants development. Started an entity without the knowledge of the council or myself. Registered it overseas, a foundation, 501c3. Had a website, Jamaica Maroon Indigenous Society, I believe it was. I posted it on my page. You can go there and look. People might not understand, where did that come from? Why? What was that post about, Chief? This guy came here saying he wanted to unify the Maroons because the situation that the government is dealing with is wrong and the company doesn't like that. They want to talk to us because there's money that wants to come in here. He's a sweet talker. If you hear that interview that he was on, listen to him. He sounds like a scammer. Pay good attention, people. Pay good attention. Be diligent. This guy is begging people to come forward with information about we holding him against his will. Mr. Reed came here for a dinner. We escorted him to Kinder, the most sacred place in our community, for a meeting. We were over there for 2.5 hours in our hut, pouring rain. We have it on the video. We have it in recording. Mr. Reed, you have issued slanderous remarks, libelous claims against myself and members of my administration. These guys went out, people, listen to me good. I will share it. These guys went out and drafted wanted posters with myself and members of my administration, putting $6 million bounty on our heads. This was being circulated in my community and to media houses. They had stamps with FBI and State Department on there. Now if the State Department and the FBI wanted the chief, do you think I would have been in such contact with the officers of the law in the last week, maybe 4 or 5 times we've been here? Prior to that, would I be talking to the former Prime Minister Bruce Golding? Former to that, would I be in discussion? Listen, people, I don't think you understand what is really going on here, you know. People have been trying to subvert our authority by getting my signature, taking pictures with me, and going off and saying, oh, the chief gave them authority to do such and such. They want to go and make deals with companies and in overseas entities under the name of the full council. This guy posted our constitution on his page, wrote a very elaborate charter on how he wanted to do cryptocurrency and development in our state, focus on building a hospital. Mr. Reed, what about water? Where are you going with a hospital without water? Listen, we're not idiots. As my old football coach used to say, my head now only make for comb. People, I beg of you, this is not a joke. This is no longer a joke. Me being here tonight is putting my life on the line to let you know what is happening truly in Accompong town. Truly with Cockpit Country. All these players are connected and entangled.
Yes, sovereignty.
When Basra and when Mr. Dennis Foster, his financier, right? Farmer drug dealer, and let me tell you something, we believe in reform. Don't think I'm bashing Mr. Foster because of his conviction. Right? We believe in reform and we are Maroons. We look out for each other. And we still look to people and what good they have and they can contribute to the upward mobility of a people. But Mr. Foster came with duress. He came holding us ransom for what we thought was the authentic treaty. He then went on trying to blackmail us into putting him into our council. He wanted to be my deputy chief. Mr. Basra wanted to be Secretary of State. And you can't even talk to people good. You don't have respect for authority. There's a video out there with you labeling the Prime Minister with a whole rock stone of bad words. As bad as things are, brother, when it comes to diplomacy, one has to carry themselves circumspect. You do not, I'm sorry, epitomize the true Maroons, because Maroons would offer themselves in servitude to their brothers and be their brothers' keepers. Not be joining with external forces in creating propaganda and slander at such a critical moment in time where for 284 years the Maroons have finally stepped up to assert their true position on this land. We've had to sue to protect this land. And now we have to do it again.
Stand up firm.
Where were all these people all this time? Were they just going to sit and watch Cockpit Country fade away? Were they just going to sit and watch our rights just fade away? Can't. That's not what this is about. It is bigger than that. It is bigger than that. Mr. Basra was given 24 hours to leave the community. The police was here when he was issued that order. The superintendent of Black River received it, as well as the sergeant who visited here that night. I explained to them the procedure that would be carried out as per the Maroon Constitution. We met as a council. We met as a community and we drafted such orders for Mr. Basra to vacate. The officers came here and asked for an additional 24 hours for him to vacate. We obliged. That night, numerous threats came in to Accompong that night, to myself and to members and figures of my community and my council. Naturally, the community became irate because now we're now being put in another state of threat and alert. So that morning, I understand that men went to escort Mr. Basra from the community. He slightly opened the door. They creased open that door. He realized what it was them and ran. He ran and jumped off a terrace and dislocated his arm. No one harmed him. No one touched him. We have him on record saying that he fell and dislocated his arm. So cut all the bull about people hurting, breaking his arm, beating him up. That's not what this is about. This is about maintaining order and removing disruptive influences from our community, which is the root and source for contention, not only for myself and the council, but there are other reports in this community about said individual you are not privy to. People have lost money. People are looking for this man for his claims. There is no cannabis cancer research center in Accompong. People come to Accompong and you will seek and receive your truth. That is that. As it relates to Basra, the law was involved. They're fully aware of what took place, and all that was done within the laws of the Constitution of the Maroons. The gate issue. Because we now understand that the gate was taken down because people have made complaints that the people of Accompong are trying to enter their community and can't get in. Now this is ridiculous because this gate has never ever been closed. What we do and what we have been doing is actually placing people at the gates to our community. I see comments of people asking, so why gate them in any way? Many of you live in your gated communities in the comfort and security of your homes. This is a private community. We are entitled to secure and preserve our community. The last 3 murders that occurred here occurred because of persons coming from the outside.
Under Colonel's regime.
Under the previous colonel's regime. This was one of the things the people cried for. Chief, we need security because we can't take one next one. Come from outside and kill one of ours. And men of this community, under the influence of former Colonel Williams, went and took down the gate to the entrance of our community. I want to take this opportunity to reach out to the good folks, to ask your kind assistance in helping us replacing this gate, and perhaps with a more sturdy one. So this time they'll have to use a bulldozer to take it down. The fact is, we are approximately 30 to 35 minutes from the closest law enforcement office. We have to have mechanisms and tools in place to protect our people. By the grace of the Almighty, we have been able to stave off any form of attack, any form of oppression, any form of crime and violence within our communities. I strive to do nothing but the same and even better. Don't deprive us of this liberty. You have no say in what happens here in Accompong. For the people have spoken, and when the people have spoken, I am obliged to act. So let's make that clear. Chief Currie is not a provocateur. The provocateurs are being sent here to upset the unity of this community, to upset the great peace in this community, to upset the already suffering and dying of this community.
Be real. Sondi Abi.
I pray the blessings and guidance over you, all the followers, and the persons who remain above board. and taking the time out to absorb information before going off and making your own judgments. Everyone is entitled to an opinion, but I would suggest you gather as much information and facts as you do before making a determination on what angle to go. I hope the police officers out there will recognize that what we fight for is not what we've just conjured up. What we're fighting for is what existed here over 284 years ago. What we're fighting for is to survive with dignity, is to survive without these evil oppressive forces constantly preventing myself and my good administration from delivering relief to the people who truly need it. Justice will come one day, and it will come one way.
Peace of a prevail.
No. Mr. McPherson would have confirmed many fears we have that exist today. But I want to reaffirm the good people of Cockpit Country, the good people of Jamaica, and the good people of the world, that goodness will always overcome, and no weapon formed against I shall prosper. And I know you will not sit back and watch this injustice continue to divide and pervade our society. Mr. Mark.
Yes, Chief.
Please let me know if you're able to hear Mark. Mark, good night.
Good night, Chief.
I want Mark to explain to you how he came about interactions with the previous administration, Mr. McPherson, Mr. David Holmes, Dave Reed, all the fellows who are all a part of this pact to destabilize and overthrow the will of the good people. Mark, please,
They're hearing me?
how did you meet
David Holmes first.
Mr. Holmes, David Holmes? David Holmes was the former Secretary of State under former Colonel Ferran Williams.
I meet Mr. David Holmes as through a friend of mine named Fanam, and he told me that David Holmes have interest in the community.
Where's David Holmes from?
David Holmes is original from Canada, from British Columbia.
British Columbia, Canada. David Holmes, okay.
And then I introduced Mr. Williams to Mr. David Holmes the day on the phone. Mr. Williams told me, I will never leave Hanover and come to Accompong if I'm not getting my fare to buy my gas. I said, don't worry, you will get your pay. I introduced Mr. Dennis Foster to Mr. David Holmes also. We meet on Mr. Dennis Foster building, and Mr. Ferran Williams, myself, Mr. Dennis Foster, and Mr. Williams. Mr. Williams signed him as a Secretary of State for Accompong Maroon Village. I have the documents all now, so it's not online. After he signed, Mr. David Holmes, and when the people of the community get boisterous, what he did, Mr. Ferran Williams, then the colonel, called the police on me. But Mr. Davidson was so skilled. What he did, he served a notice on the Governor General. I am the contact. So when he served the notice, I get a second letter from the Governor General, because Mr. David Holmes went back to Canada, but I have the contact letter. Mr. Ferran Williams bring the police to me. I tell the police, give me 5 minutes, I'll go find my letter. When I go find my letter, and they read it, they say, Mr. Williams, this man have all authority and all power. He's like a waste man. And him and the police have to leave because he wanted to charge me, but he could never charge me.
So what he's explaining is Mr. Holmes was appointed Secretary of State under the prior administration, and Mr. Holmes resides in Canada, right?
Yes.
And I understand that the relationship was one that Mr. Holmes had ways and means and mechanisms of working through the United Nations to acquire certain privileges and rights for the Maroon people, right? I'm sure he may have started with pure intentions, right? I don't know him. I've spoken to him a few times in our initial engagements with Mr. Foster and the others who are around in creating this Accompong News Network. This is how these guys have remained present in Maroon politics from previous administration to current. Now, they did not get to finish their plans under Colonel Ferron Williams because David Holmes, Duncan Buchanan, and Dennis Foster, as well as Dane Basra, were all sidelined when Mr. Timothy McPherson came into the picture. It got so bad, they launched an attack on Ferron Williams at that time. Ferron Williams then reached out to his police colleagues and his overseas connections and had Dennis Foster arrested. Dennis Foster was serving time because he was then under watch for what was trafficking and possession and distributing of cocaine. So Williams was the one who Foster had communicated, was the one who put him in jail and put all the other ones who were affiliated with him in trouble with law enforcement in the United States, because Duncan Buchanan is in Connecticut. Watch this, people. All these people don't live here. Duncan Buchanan is a bus driver in Connecticut, and David Holmes is in British Columbia, and Dennis Foster is, he's in New York. Duncan Buchanan is in New York, and Dennis, I believe, is in Connecticut. Right? All of them, right, are overseas, except one, which is Daniel Basra, who's staying at the hotel. So I want for you to understand how these persons are now connecting, having said this was the man who imprisoned him.
But I am the same man who introduced Duncan Buchanan, because through the PNP and the JLP politics, Duncan Buchanan was Danny Buck's son, and we need somebody to run against J.C. Hutchinson. That's why we introduced him here. But he see more spoils and fish in the Maroon thing. That's why I leave the PNP politics and want to join with Mr. Dennis Foster.
So, anyhow, moving on, right? The politics is deeper than you probably think. And you're wondering, what is me I listen to? What am I listening to? What am I really hearing? Is this real? Okay, well, listen. The fact of the matter is, when Timothy McPherson came in, he replaced the idea and the concept. He became the new man to what David Holmes represented, and that caused a significant fallout. Now, sidelined, they all remained in the background fighting their war, trying to oust Ferron, trying to do all sorts of things to expose him. That is how we eventually came by some of the information we found out about the Lumi. We got this information from Dennis Foster, from Duncan Buchanan, and from David Holmes. This was them trying to offer us information, showing to us how involved they were and how powerful they supposedly were in the connections they would have made with the Governor General, the Prime Minister, all these things. But this didn't happen because then they were sidelined, right? They were sidelined by Mr. Williams. And because of that, Mr. McPherson then took the place of what was then the mastermind, Mr. David Holmes. That is where now the story starts to ripen, because Mr. McPherson came with a more elaborate plan, a more intricate plan.
And also, when I introduced all these men to Colonel Ferron Williams at that time, Ferron Williams said, "Oh, that's a white elephant." But when he get the spoils and spilled, then that's when he gravitate into it. And then he leave the community on the back.
So, my thing is this. Once the Lumi thing came up, the Council of Overseas Maroons at the time, members of the community wrote several letters asking them for declarations on what the proposed banking arrangement was going to be. There were no answers. None of the questions that were posed were ever answered. I have copies of those letters, right? And I'm going to point you to where you can find all this information that I'm talking about, because rest assured, as I said, this is full disclosure, and I'm going to be making it available to every single one. I want the world to see this. My information is of no use to local authorities. My information is of no use to those who are here to uphold the law. For you. Consider that. So, when Mr. McPherson took over, there are several questions that remain unanswered. The main one was that the building, as it was being built and being financed, how was it being financed? Who was the financier? Whose building is this? There's a groundbreaking ceremony, people. Community was there. Justice of the Peace was there. Minister of the church was there.
Feast.
It's all there. How can this man come now saying that this building is his? You heard it on the clippings which I've posted. It is causing a problem in the community because his loyalists are hell-bent on creating problems moving forward. So I'm bringing this into your purview. I'm bringing this to light. I'm bringing this so you see what is really happening here. The affiliations go deep. The emails that we found implicates other entities here involved in what was going on in the background discussions. And you would have found notices issued by the BOJ as it relates to the operations of Lumi on this land. Then how would certain people be having these discussions regarding Lumi with these players, which I'm discussing? What happened to the $3 billion that's been missing out of Germany with the Wirecard scandal? What about this entity, Caribbean Development Group in St. Lucia, that is sending all this money to our account? Who is that?
Eco 6.
Who is that? Who is the Caribbean Development Group? Who is John Wendell Skeen? I mean, who are these people?
Eco 6.
Mr. McPherson asserts that the company in St. Lucia handles several other projects and other initiatives. So there would be nothing specific on the Lumi to be found there. Oh, but I found 900 and odd thousand US dollars that came from there. Why are we here in your mess? Why are we here having to suffer through your mess? Cleaning house is harder than I thought. Because corruption is rampant. It is rampant. And until you choose to hold those accountable people, your demise is only above the horizon. The world's most wanted man landed in Accompong on a private helicopter and left, without the knowledge of the wider state. Or so I hope. Or maybe not. I don't know.
He traveled in a private vehicle. Never know helicopter, chief.
He landed here. Thank you. Yes. Yes. Thank you.
RNG, Read Media Group.
I'd like to take this opportunity to say to Mr. Reed, Mr. Dave Reed, you're not welcomed in Accompong. You are not a maroon. You do not mean us any good. Your deceptive and divisive ways have been identified and have been found out. You cannot bribe the maroon people into fabricating your story. We have videos and we have audio. Send who you need to send. Send them come. Because you, Mr. Reed, will be facing a libel and slander claim yourself. Those who are out there taking on all these political angles, save yourself. Giving airtime without first understanding what lies at feet. Check yourself. We're doing the work of the people here. And if it doesn't interest you, feel free to unfollow me. Feel free to tune me out. Feel free to turn a blind eye. Because it never concerned you in the first place. It shouldn't concern you now.
284 years.
Those who try to devise strategies to subvert the authority of the state are considered enemies of the state. Persons from within who try to subvert, try to create tyranny, disruption, and turn away the good that wants to come here, the good that wants to help. You're no short of traitors to your own people, to your own culture. When you turn people away, you're turning them away from your kids as well. Because you live here and you want what's best for them. So if it is that you want what's best for them, how is it in your eyes do you see this working out in their favor? How is it in your eyes? Do you think they will be treated out there when they say they are Maroons? You think it's because of Chief? All of you are saying, oh, Chief come cause problem with the government, Chief come this, Chief come that. None of you were ever politically or socially aware enough to recognize what was happening here under your noses. You were going to sit here and allow our great land to be taken and given away to foreigners. You were going to sit here and watch Jamaica become republic without understanding its implication on this prior agreement that they've yet to honor. And you say you are a Maroon. And you say you're here for justice and rights. And you say you're here to stand up for your forefathers. You say you're here for our culture. What not jump for 6th of January? A charade? It's not a charade. It's a pilgrimage honoring what our forefathers fought for and left for their posterity forever. Forever.
And ever.
Treaties never die.
Salam alaikum.
Let's get to talking. Let's get to fixing this thing. I don't like doing this. I don't. I really don't. It is heartbreaking to be having to do this. When the police came here the other night, they came here on behalf of threats issued to other persons in this community because of persons they say affiliated to me have threatened them over the incident of the gate. Not one has asked anything about the threats I've received or members of my administration have received. No, they did not come about the gate that was ripped off the wall. No, they did not come about that. They told me not come about that. Didn't come about that. Never want to come, never come about that. And then, not satisfied with what they got when they came, upon leaving, one of them would have issued a threat to the young man and young men of Accompong, telling them, don't ever come to Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is a little district out in St. Elizabeth. Right? Don't let us see you in Santa Cruz. Because it's different things. Yeah? Why is it so difficult, Jamaica? Why is it so difficult? Chief Currie is using the law and using the tools of the law, instruments of the law, to protect the integrity of his administration and the state and its people. Chief Currie is only conveying what his ancestors left here that has been misunderstood and misinterpreted and propagated in propaganda machines for so long. Chief Currie is on a mission of education, educating his people and uplifting them, spiritually and mentally. But love is hard to come by in the town because of so much division and entities and forces working against it. None of them reside here. None of them are in here. Those that are in here are being influenced by them. They're being financed by them. They're being placed by them. Chief Currie left to come and try to fix things. Chief Currie with his administration have begun the process of fixing things. Chief Currie is not a don. Chief Currie is not a criminal.
It's a leader.
Chief Currie didn't even consider himself a leader. Chief Currie did come here just because him did think him could have do better, because him see certain things where him could have tried plug in. Him have certain resources in people where him know, and him have certain experience out there in business, in the business world, and him come to apply that. Chief Currie let go everything when him did have, when him did think was possession. They weren't really possession. Me have possessions all over. Me have friends who still have things in them house, so me John me feel away sometimes. The material don't matter for me. The material is always the material. They come and they go. The divinity of purpose and mission in life is what stands out for me. My mission and my purpose is to elevate and uplift the Maroon people out of their deplorable state. Up, you mighty race. Never bow down to the tactics and maneuvers of the oppressors. Rest assured, the voice within is the guidance within. I hate to have to do this. I hate to have to do this. People say, oh, you must practice a little bit more diplomacy. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? What more can I do within the powers that I have? Members of the opposition have been calling me and giving me their support more than members of the current administration. Floyd Green is a classmate, former classmate of mine. Used to go to Monroe College, sits in the office of the Prime Minister. What happened, Floyd? What's going on, Floyd? You're a Monroe brother. Floyd, what's going on? I thank you for standing with us. I thank you for continuing to support our mission. We might be shaken, but we're not moved. For every hill, there's a valley. After every valley, there's a hill. I am saying tonight to the well-thinking minds and the good people of Jamaica, the good people of the wider world, Last month, we had a representative at the United Nations to bring to the fore our plight. They received us well. They were so excited to see us. We left all our speech. They took all of them and placed them on file. We've made several contacts since then, several friends since then. Many whose eyes are now keen on what's happening here in Jamaica. The fact is, Jamaica is a signatory to the Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. They've not ratified, which is why the indigenous people in the land still are suffering. We can't find home. We're lost. We can't find home because we're still under a system that is keen on depriving us of our dignity.
Honestly, yeah. All right.
We're keen on bringing to an end this nonsense. I am asking the authorities, MOCA, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the Jamaica Defense Force, the Minister of National Security, the Office of the Public Prosecutor, the Office of the Political Ombudsman, the Office of the Prime Minister, the Office of the Governor General. I'm pleading to you as head of state-elect, as the successor to Captain Kojo, Chief Richard Currie of the Trelawney Town Maroons of Cockpit Country, do seek your assistance in bringing to end long-standing issues pending with the government of Jamaica, a colony of the Crown, heir to the responsibilities and duties and obligations of said Crown. The Maroons are seeking your help. I thank you for joining me tonight, and I hope that in the coming days we can have constructive and productive dialogue. Peace be upon to you.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Salam alaikum. Alaikum salam.
And we talk again. Please stay tuned.